It's Jennifer Evans with Empowering Wellness Counseling Solutions. For many, we have finished all of our holiday cheer. We have opened our gifts. We have said goodbye, family. And we are settling in to kind of finish out and close out this year as we start preparing for the new year. But many people in the Christian faith really see Christmas as the beginning. It's the birth. It's the welcoming of Jesus coming again, and the welcoming of and celebration of his birth. And so Christmas can have a lot connected to it, and it definitely has a lot when it comes to gratitude and suffering, because the holidays, no matter what your faith is filled with perceived expectations. And as we know, perceived expectations are the killer of joy. And so there's a lot of good, there's a lot of oxytocin and serotonin and dopamine that gets released around the holiday season, just because of all the lights and all of the things that we look forward to. But also with that, no, there is a lot of hidden external validators, a lot of opportunities to implicitly devalue ourselves. As we overindulge in the sweets and, all of the festivities that happen around the holidays, understanding the perspective shift that this is a beginning versus an end definitely helps you to be able to better appreciate how to live in a Christmas mindset all year long. And so we see that there is a lot of joy, and we see a lot of depression around this season. And again, that's because of these perceived expectations and everything that comes with it, whether it is feeling incredibly lonely and isolated because things aren't open as much as people follow the Christian holiday calendar, whether it's because we're not really doing a lot for ourselves, we're feeding into the negative dynamics of our families and not realizing how much we implicitly devalue ourselves, or that we are enjoying ourselves, we are escaping and all the things that are out there, the festivities, the lights, the idols that surround us. And so when we can understand what Christmas is and what the holidays are for us, and we look at it as a new beginning or as a beginning instead of an end, what we're doing is we're finding sustainability. We're looking for that gratitude that actually has begun to hopefully build around Thanksgiving and continue to nourish us as we get into Christmas, as we find blessings and gratitudes for the things in our lives and the things that are there in our lives versus what is lacking. Then we can start finding ways to build that gratitude all year long. And we create sustainable gratitude by finding grounding practices, by finding journaling, by building habits at the end of the day that creates a sense of value for the life lived that we did that day, and compartmentalizing and putting it away. For my clients, I tell them, all the values of journaling, but one value is create a section for me. When you have worries, when you have things that are just sitting there weighing on you, make a section and put in that section, and you say, this is for Jennifer. This is for Jennifer to take on. This is not my worry. This is something that I'll talk about with her, whether it's therapy or coaching or a group session. This is something that I want to bring up so that I know that I don't have to feel this shame and guilt. I don't need this burden, that I've entered into a working dynamic with somebody who can take on that weight. And the more that we allow ourselves to compartmentalize, to understand that all of this weight is not ours, that we can just stay in the present moment and just appreciate the present for what it is, and present is a gift. It is also every day that we live is a gift, right? English has a funny way of having duality in the words that we have, but present really does mean something that is given to us to enjoy. And so many times we don't feel like we are presented with a present. So it is a gift for us to be here and now. It is something that is given to us to enjoy. And what we can do is take the feelings, the sensations, the experiences, the mindset that we have now, and just create a metronome of balance to be able to find what your pace is, what your flow is when it comes to being in a present gratitude state. And this will flow into, yesterday we talked about the binging and restricting cycles. So go back to that previous video. Gratitude is very much obviously connected to it. I wouldn't have it this week. But it's connected because it's allowing us to find balance, to not just immediate shift to suffering and despair and trying to find a survival reaction, but being present with what's happening, understanding and retraining that neuroplastic brain that things don't need to be so life or death, and that when we can be present with ourselves, we can find gratitude, we can find our pivot point. We don't want to just anxiously shoot the ball. We want to know that we have our space and there will be a teammate, and we trust our teammates to be there to pass the ball to be open to gain that shot. And so find little ways, daily little ways, weekly little ways, monthly, quarterly check-ins to find where your present is. And if you're not there, there's no shame or guilt. Don't let yourself be shamed or guilted. Allow yourself to know that is the mind's job, is to wander. And the mind's job is not only to wander, it's to track and see, are we safe now, and how do we react quickly? And so, a lot of my clients have been in these experiences of where they're needing to transform their perspective, where they're getting locked into these toxic triangles in their family. And what I tell them is that there's no need to feel guilt for grounding out of this and saying, not my circus, not my monkeys, because when you have a triangulated situation, even if it's only between 2 people or 3 people, it does not matter. Like, they complete that Cartman drama triangle, and we talked about that last week, so go back to the previous videos. I have it in there a couple of times, those negative dynamics, those relationship cycles. And the Cartman drama triangle says persecutor, victim, or rescuer. And if you have 2 family members who are on that triangle, then they are both occupying a victim role while occupying a perpetrator role and an enabler role or a rescuer role. So as they perpetrate the other family member who wants to be a victim, they're also enabling that. They're saying, hey, you're a victim, and here I am. I'm going to be really loud and boisterous. And then they also find themselves to be the martyr. The parent usually is a martyr versus a victim. It's the same thing. And so they get to occupy all 3 states at once. And once you're on the triangle, you want as many places that you can, because it gives you a perceived sense of control. So you're trying to occupy all the places of the triangle. And so when you ground out of that, then because you find gratitude and meaning as a situation as a whole, instead of these micro moments where people get stuck, and it's not purposeful, they're not trying to do it, their mind is in survivor mode and they have been rewarded. I have clients, literally clients, whose parents give their siblings money to have these victim outbursts. And that victim is perpetrating and yelling at the parent, who will then come in and say, what did I do wrong? I do everything. I have given my entire life to this kid. I don't understand why they're so upset. then give them money as a result, and then wondering why it continues to happen over and over again. And I have clients who have seen this, but they still feel guilty that they're not stepping in. And so as we continue to work together, we're removing ourselves from that toxic dynamic, because we understand it will happen no matter what. We don't have to be in it for it to happen, and we can't change people. We don't have control over their behaviors, their thoughts, their feelings. So if they want to be in that because it rewards them, then they're going to be in it. But what you do is you neutrally come out of it, and you start hitting those valid data points. And it goes back to the relationship dynamics. It takes one to tango. People will contend with it, or they won't. And it does not matter, because then you are not in a place of suffering and despair. You are in a place of gratitude. You are in a place of finding your pivot points, of finding meaning and value in the present for what it is. And we continue to maintain this health through that balance and awareness. And as we label people in these drama triangles, and as we ground out of it, we immediately do something that helps ourselves, that gives us value. We go on a walk, we find our agency, we go back to what is my thought, my feeling, and my behavior. How do I ground back to myself? And then there's all kinds of gratitude exercises. There's journaling, there is explicit and implicit valuing, there is labeling. So there's a lot of ways that you can find that, oh, I'm in suffering and despair, it doesn't serve me. Let me find one way. The gratitude spectrum is actually in my Key Steps workbook, part 1, A Life Worth Living. And it goes into, and you can go into the link in my description, my video description, that actually allows you, it's actually in part 2, the whole chapter on gratitude and suffering is in part 2, emotional regulation, which will be out later this month, early next year, which says, walk yourself through. There are 4 spaces between suffering and despair. Write them down for yourself. Find where you're on that spectrum, then do one thing that gets you one step closer to gratitude. And that's a really good, helpful exercise to allow you to have that space and to regain your sense of agency and not get lost in these triangles of suffering and despair. And the more that you build community, the more that you find validation, and the more that you find a way to find agency outside of these toxic dynamics. And sometimes you can't leave them, but what you want to do is ground around them. And so we have a lot of things that we can do, and we'll talk more about it next week and the week after, of what we want to do to find that individuation, get out of these toxic dynamics. And for daily practice, find and set your intention in the morning, and do gratitude journaling at night. Find what you are grateful for and keep leaning on that. Keep leaning on the strengths that you have and the valid data points you have, that you are doing a lot and you have a lot of resiliency. It will build protective factors and not make you feel so drained. And that's what I have, is it's all about suffering and gratitude. And when you can find gratitude, then you can find agency, then you can find a pivot point, and you can bring the holiday season throughout the year. You can find that joy and peace. You can let go of the perceived expectation and enjoy the present for what it is. It's allowing life to present a present to be present. I am Jennifer Evans with Empowering Wellness Counseling Solutions. If you like this and you want to know more, hit the like button. A little thumbs up would go a long way for me. And subscribe, and please share this with somebody who is struggling to get through and survive the holiday season. It's no shame in the game. This is just how our brain is built. Thank you so much.